Take a look at this man. This is my father in 1985. He was a mechanic with no college degree. My mom stayed home to raise us. With that one income, he bought a house, paid off 2 cars, and slept soundly every night. Now look at you. You and your partner pull in $168,000 a year. On paper, you're rich. But last Tuesday, when your AC unit died and the bill was $1,200, you didn't write a check. You panicked. You fought with your spouse. Then you put it on a credit card because your checking account was empty. Here's the question that should haunt you. Why was my blue-collar father financially free with 1 income while you're drowning with 2? You're not crazy. You're caught in a mathematical cage called the 2-income trap. I'm Philly. I cut open broken budgets and expose what's bleeding you dry. Today's patient, the 2-income trap. I perform forensic autopsies on the American financial system. When I opened up the modern middle class, you know what I found? Not too many lattes, not avocado toast. I found a systemic extraction mechanism designed to bleed you dry the moment you signed your marriage license. You're suffering from massive cognitive dissonance. Your brain screams, "We work twice as hard, we should be twice as rich." But your bank account whispers, "You're one missed paycheck from disaster." Here's the truth. Wall Street doesn't want you to know. The game was rigged 40 years ago. When families went from 1 income to 2, you didn't double your wealth. You entered a bidding war where the price of admission to the middle class, housing, healthcare, education, rose to swallow both paychecks instead of one. Think of it like a stadium. In 1970, everyone sat watching the game. The view was fine. Then one family stood up for a better view. The family behind them stood up. Then the whole section. Today, everyone's standing. Nobody sees better than before, but everyone's legs are shaking. If you sit down, you see nothing. You're standing in that stadium. Your legs are trembling, and you're blaming yourself for being tired. Stop it. Today, we're exposing the dual income pricing virus, calculating the flexibility tax you pay without realizing it, and giving you surgical tools to escape this trap before it crushes you. Get your scalpel ready. We're going in. The patient is on the table. The symptom is broke. Society's diagnosis? You spend too much on lattes. Let's cut open the budget and see if that's true. Your monthly household income, $14,000 gross, roughly $168,000 annually. Looks rich, right? But the IRS and state take their cut immediately. After federal tax, state tax, Social Security, Medicare, you're left with roughly $9,800 take home per month. Now watch the blood loss. Here are the non-negotiables, not choices, but the price of admission to modern middle-class life. Housing, $3,400 per month. That's $40,800 a year. Your father's entire salary in 1985. Childcare, $2,600 per month. $31,200 annually. You're paying a full-time salary to not raise your own kids. The fleet, $1,100 per month. 2 cars you need to get to jobs that pay for the daycare. See the trap? Student loans, $850 per month. The degree that qualified you for the job that requires the daycare. Healthcare, $950 per month, just to keep the lights on and bodies functioning. Convenience tax, $1,100 per month. Too exhausted to cook after working 10 hours. Outsourcing life at premium prices. Total, $10,000. You have $9,800. You're not broke because you're irresponsible. You're broke because the math doesn't work. Total mandatory spending, $10,000. Your take-home, $9,800. You're mathematically dead. You're $200 in the red before buying a birthday present, taking a vacation, or saving a dime for retirement. This explains why you feel like you're drowning. You're running a corporation, Your Family Inc., with higher overhead than revenue. Your father in 1985 saved 41% of his income. You're saving negative 2%. And the terrifying part, you didn't buy anything fun. You just paid for the privilege of working. Now the dangerous question, why? Why did prices explode specifically and systematically to target 2-income families? It's called the bidding war mechanism, and understanding it will change how you see everything about modern economics. Let me explain the stadium analogy in more detail. In 1970, imagine everyone in America sitting in a massive stadium watching the game of life. Everyone is seated. The view is adequate. Some people have better seats than others, sure, but everyone can see the field. This represents the single-income household economy. Then women's liberation happens. This is a good thing. Let me be absolutely clear about that. Women gaining the right and ability to work outside the home is progress, but it created an unintended economic consequence that nobody predicted. One family stood up to see better. The wife got a job. Suddenly, that household had double the income. They used that extra income to bid more aggressively for the scarce, desirable assets. Houses in safe neighborhoods with excellent schools. They gained a temporary advantage. They could afford a bigger house, a better zip code. But the family behind them saw this and thought, we're falling behind. We need to stand up too. So that wife got a job. Then the whole row stood up. Then the entire section. Within one generation, everyone in the stadium was standing up, both spouses working full-time. Here's the cruel outcome. Nobody sees the game any better than before. The houses didn't get twice as nice. The schools didn't become twice as good. The neighborhoods didn't become safer. But now everyone's legs are trembling from exhaustion. Everyone's back is aching. And if you dare to sit down, if one spouse tries to stay home, you see absolutely nothing. You get priced out completely. That is the housing market in America today. When women entered the workforce in massive numbers throughout the 1970s and 1980s, households suddenly had double the borrowing power. Banks looked at family balance sheets and saw 2 incomes instead of 1. The bank looked at your household with 2 incomes and said, fantastic. You can now borrow $500,000 instead of $200,000. Here's your mortgage approval. Since every family competing for that house could now borrow more, sellers simply raised their prices. It's basic supply and demand. The supply of houses in good school districts stayed relatively the same, but the purchasing power of buyers doubled. Prices had nowhere to go but up. The result? You're now paying twice the price relative to single-income purchasing power for essentially the same house your parents bought in 1985. That house hasn't gotten better. It's the same 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom structure, but it now costs $520,000 instead of $180,000 adjusted for regular inflation. The second income didn't make you rich. It didn't unlock prosperity. It just got absorbed entirely by the inflated price of the house, like water disappearing into sand. You worked twice as hard to end up in the exact same place your parents were with half the effort. And here's the second infection, what I call the flexibility tax. Your parents had a secret weapon, an ace up their sleeve that you don't have, a full-time household manager. Usually this was mom, though in some families it was dad. This person provided massive economic value that never showed up in GDP statistics or salary numbers. If dad got sick and missed a week of work, mom could pick up a temporary job to bridge the gap. If the roof started leaking, mom could spend the day calling contractors, getting 3 quotes, supervising the repair. If a child got sick at school, mom could drop everything and pick them up. If the car needed service, mom handled it. If elderly parents needed help, mom was available. They had margin. They had flexibility. They had resilience built into their family structure. You have no margin whatsoever. You've monetized the second adult completely. You've outsourced cooking to restaurants and meal kit services. You've outsourced cleaning to weekly housekeepers, charging $150 per visit. You've outsourced child rearing to daycare centers at $1,300 per child per month. You've outsourced home maintenance to expensive contractors because neither of you has time to get 3 quotes and supervise the work. And you're paying premium market rates for all of it. You didn't double your wealth by adding a second income. You just turned your family into an employee-employer relationship with the broader economy. And the economy is extracting every single dollar of that second paycheck, plus forcing you into debt for the difference. But there's a deeper layer. Why don't you just move to a cheaper house? Drive a 10-year-old car? Because you're suffering from the middle-class performance trap. You're not buying things for utility. You're buying them for identity consistency. Psychologists call this the Diderot effect. You bought the $500,000 house in the good neighborhood. That house demands certain furniture, a certain car, that your kids play travel soccer costing $3,000 a year. because that's what the neighbor's kids do. You're terrified that if you opt out, if you drive a beater or use a regular school, you're failing your children. You're accepting downward mobility. This is the suburban peacock paradox. You're burning resources just to signal you belong in the tribe. But here's the truth as a mind surgeon. Your kids don't need the #1 ranked school district. They don't need travel soccer. What they need is parents who aren't on the verge of a nervous breakdown every Tuesday because the math doesn't work. A stressed, debt-ridden home in a good zip code is toxic. We've diagnosed the disease. We know the system is rigged. Now, the cure. And I'll be honest, this cure is painful. It requires ego surgery. You're going to kill the version of yourself that cares what neighbors think, so the version that wants to be free can actually live. Here's the 5-step protocol to escape the 2-income trap. Step 1. The 1-income stress test tonight. Sit down with your spouse and a cup of tea. Open your spreadsheet and ask this terrifying question. Could we survive if one of us lost our job tomorrow? If the answer is no, we'd lose the house in 90 days. Then you don't have 2 incomes. You have 2 mandatory incomes. You've built a financial prison requiring 2 keys. Lose 1 key, you're locked in forever. Identify exactly how far over the 1-income limit you are. Is it $1,000 a month? $3,000? That's your reduction target. Step 2. The strategic downshift, the ego death. This is where most people quit. Don't be weak, stay with me. Restructure your fixed costs, housing, cars, insurance, to fit within one salary. Yes, this sounds impossible. It might mean selling the house in the A-tier school district and moving to a B-tier district where houses cost 2.5 times 1 income, not 2. It definitely means selling the $50,000 SUV with the $800 payment and buying a reliable used car for cash. You're trading status for safety. Because here's the truth, your kids don't need granite countertops. They need parents who aren't stress-eating antacids at 10 p.m. because they can't pay the mortgage. Step 3. The 1-income plus architecture. This is the framework wealthy people use, even if they don't tell you. Stop treating both salaries as spending money. Assign roles. Person A, their salary is steady. It covers the mortgage, groceries, lights. 100% of survival is on Person A. Person B, the second income. It's variable, flexible, or smaller. But here's the rule. Person B's income never touches the checking account, never buys groceries, never pays for Netflix. Step 4. Weaponize the second income. Once you live on Person A's income, Person B's income becomes a wealth-building weapon. Say Person B brings home $36,000 a year after taxes. Watch what happens when you don't spend it. Years 1 to 2. The purge. Attack consumer debt. Student loans, gone. Credit cards, vaporized. You destroy $72,000 of liability in 24 months. Years 3 to 4, the fortress. Build a 12-month emergency fund. Not 3 months, 12 months. Now, if the boss screams at you, you can smile. You have resignation money. Years 5 to 10, the acceleration. Invest that entire second salary into index funds. $36,000 a year compounding. By year 10, you don't just have savings. You have a multi-$100,000 machine generating its own income. Step 5. Reject the positional arms race. This is the final psychological lock you must pick. Realize that the good parent script you were sold is a lie. The system tells you that if you don't put your kid in travel soccer, $3,000, in the best school district, $500,000 mortgage, you're failing them. Wrong. Research shows that once basic needs are met, the difference in outcomes between an expensive neighborhood and a moderate one is marginal. But the difference for a child raised in a financially stressed, time-starved home versus a calm, secure home is massive. Don't sacrifice your family's actual well-being on the altar of your child's hypothetical resume. The 2-income trap was designed to keep you running on a treadmill until you're 67. It was designed to soak up every dollar of your hard work into inflated housing and child care costs. But you can step off the machine. You can choose to be the family with the smaller house and the older car, but with the peace of mind that comes from knowing you own your life. Restructure to 1 income. Weaponize the second. Kill your ego. Save your future. I'm Philly. The surgery is complete. Now go home and get your stitches. Subscribe if you want to survive against the system. If you want to see other traps the system exposes, you can check out my video about credit card points traps in the bottom left. Take care.